Rainbow Hub Waikato really means a space that people can come together to explore their identity, figure out who they are through connection and support, and whanaungatanga and building relationships. I think for so many people, when they're figuring out kind of where they fit in the world, there isn't necessarily a safe space where they're able to do that and go, okay, right here is where I get to be like 100% me, get to be completely authentic, completely who I am.
I mean, if you could imagine only having a couple of hours a week where you can be yourself, completely yourself, and not have to worry about what people might think about that or what people might say to you. It's what most of our community goes through on a day-to-day basis, except that they don't have a couple of hours every day. They have maybe an hour every week where they can be themselves. That's why we exist. It's to provide that hour, because otherwise what have you got?
We're not questioning being like, what's your gender and sexuality? We're just trusting that they're here because they need to be here. And that's so important to honour who you are as a whole holistic person. That's the reason why it's so right in a kaupapa Māori lens is you come as you are and you are here, so welcome.
This may be the first space that someone comes into and feels like they can truly be themselves.
Rainbow Hub Waikato, it changed everything for me. It changed my whole way of thinking. It just changed my perception about the world. It even made me realise like how much I have been shaped by not only history, but our current culture today.
Our team here at Rainbow Hub Waikato is like a melting pot of personalities. Every single person has individual passions, individual interests, individual skill sets, and everyone is very eclectic. And when we come together, it's just a powerhouse of people who at the end of the day are passionate about empowering our community and seeing success for anyone, and that's not just the rainbow community, but anyone in general.
Yeah, so it's really a core of my own identity, and knowing that when I was feeling really vulnerable, I had a space to be who I was. And so my passion is to making sure that the space is here, that people feel comfortable and know that there's a safe space they can be themselves. Most of our stuff is like op shop sourced, one because we're budget, but two because we're really going for that, as you can probably tell, that op shop garage chic. So we just really want people to be comfortable here and know that we've won when, you know, during a group that someone feels comfortable having a nap on one of the couches. Like, that's the sweet spot.
It's such a restorative atmosphere when clients come in, especially the youth, and they have this space to be who they are. It builds their sense of self, and it's like their sense of belonging. Like, it's okay for me to be here. It's okay for me to be me. It's so amazing and beautiful how clients can walk in their school uniforms, and then they come into the community wardrobe like where we are now, and they put on something that's gender affirming for them, you know, because their school won't allow them to affirm their own gender, and they can come in here and be who they are. That is such a beautiful experience.
So in regards to what we do for the community, we have a few different areas we work in. We do a lot of education, so that might be with like businesses and community organisations, helping them to upskill in queer competencies, so they've got a better understanding of what it's like to work with the rainbow community and how they can be more supportive. We also run support services, so people can book in to meet with one of our support team, and from there they're able to get connected to other services they might need. And then we also run social support groups where people can come and connect, whether that's over coffee, over kai, over kōrero, play board games, chill out, check out our different spaces, and just have a space where they can come together and have a time where they're not worried about judgment, not worried about what other people are thinking or saying, and really just getting to kind of like block out all of that internal and external noise and just get to be truly authentic and get to be themselves.
Yeah, I think what's really special about our staff is that they bring a mix of that professionalism and passion, but also they're really driven by their lived experience. So they can put themselves into the shoes of the community that are asking for help, and they go like immediately like, wow, this is what it felt like for me. So let's empower these young people and these community members that are reaching out.
So I kind of get to see people blossom day in, day out, which has been the best thing, yeah.
So for me, as a young person, I had a really tough time navigating who I was and where I could see myself in the world, because there was no kind of representation of what it meant to grow up and have a successful life as a queer person. For me, it was a very long journey and a lot of taking the wrong path, trying to figure out where I was. But over time, I've kind of got to a place where I'm very at peace with who I am. I celebrate who I am, and I just think that I'm very blessed and lucky to have gone through the experiences I've gone through, because that's made me who I am today.
When I first came out, I was 16, and the first thing you do is when you're having a bit of a fat cry and you're like, oh my God, what are my feelings? What am I doing? Who am I? Without having that safe place to find people that liked me, I felt so isolated, and I didn't feel connected to my community. So there were circles of community that I had, but I felt like I was wearing a mask to be in them.
When I got to Rainbow Hub, I was able to see queer people who were, living really normal lives, who were really boring, who just talked about the cats all the time, or, went to work as like CPAs or teachers and stuff. And I was like, oh, wonderful. I don't have to have this horrific backstory or, be a tragic figure of some sort. I can grow up and be just as incredibly boring, which was really lovely.
And so having people in the community that, or role models that aren't just, typical, media tropes for what a trans person is really important. And I'm thankful that I can be here and work in this mahi and do this job to be the person that I would have needed to see when I was that young person. So I wouldn't have to, sadly sit at home like Googling, hoping to find an example of me.
One of those conversations that still comes up a lot, but came up a lot when I was younger, is like the whole why are you gay? Or why are you feminine? Or are you different? For me, when I was a young person, all I could ever imagine was when I grow up, I want to have a successful job, and I want to have a wife, and I want to have kids, and I just want that normal kind of world that it looks like. And such a huge part of my battle for accepting who I was because once I realised I was gay, I was like, wait, does that take my dreams away? Does that mean I won't find a successful career? Does that mean I won't get a home? I won't have a relationship? I won't get to have a whānau and a family? So there's a lot of belief system out there that it's a choice or that, it's just to be different or be unique. But it's actually really hard to be part of the rainbow community still this day.
Stuff that I would experience as a member of the rainbow community is having to come out every day. People think coming out is a one-time process and all that, but you are constantly having to tell people, because you'll say something like, my partner, and you immediately see their face go, you said partner, not girlfriend.
Because you're constantly having to come out, you're constantly having to explain yourself, whereas if you're a heteronormative cisgender person, you don't walk into a room and go, oh, I'm going to have to tell these people I'm straight, or I'm not going to have to tell these people I identify as a man and I was born as a man.
For a lot of queer people, coming out is a really integral part of their identity and their journey. And it really sucks when that's taken away from you, because there are many people who might not feel comfortable having certain people know certain information about them. And when someone takes that away, it's quite scary, because you don't know how people are going to react and how that's going to affect you and the people that you care about. I didn't come out until I was at least 19, and I didn't even really kind of start thinking about or exploring my identity till I was around 18 or 19. I come from quite a religious and conservative home. It was tricky. Like a lot of queer people, I've experienced discrimination. My spouse was actually outed to my entire family and everyone that I grew up with, and then by extension I was also outed. Even though I've actually technically not come out to any of those people.
I started here as a third-year social work placement student. Everyone has a different experience, and not one person is the same whether they're queer or not queer. We're so individualistic. But in the sense of me being an ally, it was It was learning in a genuine space. So the queer community goes through so many struggles that the heterosexual or straight community don't face. Me being cisgendered and not queer myself, I didn't know what to expect of the rainbow community or like what to think. I'd only ever really seen the rainbow community in the media or on social media. You know, like I'd had a couple of queer friends like growing up and things like that, but I didn't really know much, if or anything about the rainbow community. I'm just gonna be completely honest. I thought it was, you know, like leather outfits and big, you know, floats and parades and things like that, because I don't know. And there's so much stigma behind being queer, you know, and so that informed, like at a macro level, that informed my decision making or like my thought process, you know. It's like our society has shaped me to think in a certain way about, you know, and there's such a negative stigma on being queer. It's so far from the truth. We meet a lot of queer people who are facing really heavy struggles within our community, just within the Waikato here, where I never faced any of those things. I've never felt particularly unsafe in my community, and that's a privileged perspective that I come from. Me growing up, it was always like, that's gay, or that's super gay, you know, or that and that kind of thing. And then just taking a step back and like thinking, like, how would that make someone else feel? You know what I mean? Every single person is so individualistic. They're so different from each other. There's not one heterosexual person that's the same. There's not one queer person that's the same. So to like put people into a box or put people in this is what you are, so this is what you have to be, is just not the truth. It's not right. The reason there is need for Rainbow Hub Waikato is down to the fact that our society still isn't equitable.
What I would say to people is you can reach out. You don't have to feel like you're not queer enough or you're not, you know, ready for something like that. It's on your terms, and yeah, we're always here.
If you're on a journey around your identity or your sexuality, whatever it might be, just take your time, figure out who you are, don't worry about putting a label on it, and just really think about who are you at the core, what are your values, what are your dreams, what are your aspirations. Just figure out who you are as a person, start from there, and then when you feel safe enough to start communicating things, then that's the right time to do it. But don't feel that pressure that now that you've gone, oh, this is who I am, that you instantly have to tell everyone, because we get pressured into doing things by other people, but a lot of the time by ourselves. So just focus on figuring out who you are, focus on that self-acceptance, and then you can start to move forward from there and start to flourish.
It's okay to take your time to figure out who you are and where you fit. Though that journey looks different for everyone, and though that journey seems to follow similar patterns with different people within the rainbow community, everyone experiences learning about themselves and exploring who they are in some way, shape or form. Yeah, so not alone. It gets better. There are so many things that I'm doing and learning now that I never even imagined myself doing and learning at this point in my life when I was younger.
So just living your truth and doing what's safe for you and what feels right is okay. And there's no timeline on coming out. There's no timeline on what your identity looks like. It's you-centric. And for those of you who want to support those people around you by being more inclusive and may not be part of the rainbow community, just be gentle and listen when people tell you things. So it takes a lot to be that first person that someone comes out to. It takes a lot for people to ask for help and to understand who they are and to share that. So widen your lens. It might not be your journey, but this is what their journey looks like, and they're sharing with you and they're trusting you with that. So that's important to honour them, honour the trust that they've shared with you.